So a few days ago I made a video about the Soviet bias Enlisted and why it's such a big problem. Today we're going to be doing the opposite of the spectrum, and we're going to be talking about why Germany suffers through its weapons and equipment. We're also going to be talking some outliers to consider, and we're going to be talking about what Enlisted can do to make the situation better, or to be exact, make Germany not suffer. But that said, let's get started with this video. For those who haven't figured out by now, this video has been made possible for the friends at Discord, meaning that if you haven't liked, subscribed, or joined Discord, I highly suggest that you do. But that said, let's get started. The first thing that we have is the biases, and these biases include tanks and planes are not in favor of the Axis. No matter what campaign you are, they are definitely not going to be favored towards the Axis. In this case, Germany really does not have the favor for most tanks, such as the Tiger II P. They get the P variant instead of the H variant, meaning that the turret can be easily shot out by a T-34, which is basically the Soviet starting tank, whereas the Soviets get an IS-2, which is basically very hard to penetrate front on. Other stuff includes the Bf-109 compared, or a Focke-Wulf compared to a P-47. They are almost even in terms of air combat, but the P-47 has much greater potential. Weapons in the early game is where Germany really suffers, such as the Soviets get the PPD, and the Americans in Normandy are quite even. Tunisia is not even going to be mentioned because I'm going to be having a specific video for that, but let's just get out of the way. Tunisia is really suffering. Another thing to start to change is the mid to late game, in which the Soviets become even more OP and the Germans tend to be left behind, and thus, especially in games in Berlin, Moscow, Tunisia. Once again, Tunisia is going to have its own video, and Normandy, of course, is quite even, which is, as of right now, the biggest outlier. Normandy is the biggest outlier considering the fact that it's actually quite even until we get to the late game. In terms of late game, Germany really shines, and that is the problem. For example, you get the FG-42 and STGs, however, most free-to-play players are not even going to make it that far. For one, the grind is real, and the longer the grind and the more exponentially harder it's going to get level up. Hence, the amount of players getting to those sweet FG-42s and FG-42-2s is going to be really hard. This is not to mention, although you have an FG-42, it is not even a guarantee win. It is not a game changer, it's only a game balancer. Yes, compared to what you originally have, the FG-42 and the FG-42-2, the STG-44, the MKB-43, and the MKB-42 is a big level step up, which, I'm going to be honest, it's really what you need to balance the game. However, just because you've got those weapons aren't going to mean that you're going to win every game. Soviet troops with PPSH-41s, the American M2 carbine, and other weapons are just as able to kill you, if not at the same rate. Heck, at this point, most people are wondering what gives. The German grind is hard compared to the Allies, and at this point, most people are just going to willing to play the Allies to make the grind easier and have a better experience, which I do not blame them. Most players at this point will just play the Allies since, once again, they tend to have an easier grind, and at this point, it becomes clear why a lot of people want to play Germany. More so, as we're talking about this, there are less and less players playing Germany, and the reason is simple, because literally of what I just stated up above. Not to mention the fact that, like I said in the beginning, planes and tanks are heavily allied biased. For example, the PP-47, once again, the Germans have a easy time taking it down, but the P-47 has the ability to take you down, not to mention the fact that compared to any German bomb stuff, whatever, the P-47 can easily and almost effortlessly kill enemy troops en masse. Then you have the units like the T-34, in which the Germans really don't have a counter unless you dive bomb with a Stuka. Of all these points, there are only two types of players that mainly play Germany now, and this is kind of sad. The veterans of the game who really want a challenge like me, and new players of the game which have a big problem, because they're going to be suffering. And this is pretty evident by the scoreboard of most games. For most games, there are going to be one or two players that are instantly going to be dominating the entire game, essentially carrying the game, and then the rest of the players are just essentially going to be human players, but they're slightly better than bots. What can Enlisted do to fix this? And this is the easiest thing that Enlisted can do, is to balance the game more. Give new stuff that is worth the grind towards the late game. As of right now, the FG-42-2, the STG-44 is actually worth the grind, which is something that I'm happy to say. So in that terms, yes, Germany is still suffering, but at least Germany has a pretty good reward for you grinding the game. As of right now, Germany still suffers due to inferior equipment and a lack of players, especially in the early game in which either most of the equipment is already pretty bad or lackluster, and the lack of players is going to be more evident as time goes on. Hopefully Enlisted solves this issue, and from the looks of it, they actually are. So maybe in a few days, this Germany suffers Enlisted is actually not going to be in the case. But that said, guys, this is all it for today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join the Discord, and I'll see you in the next one. Now before you leave, I would like to thank you very much for watching this video. I would be honored if you could like and subscribe to the channel. Remember, more videos are coming out, so it is a good idea to click on that notification button. Anyways, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one.